Welcome, everyone, to the Gardenerd Tip of the Week podcast, where experts from around the world talk shop, share stories, and offer their favorite tip. I'm your host, Christy Wilhelmi. We continue our series of interviews with speakers from the Heirloom Expo in Ventura County, California. This week, my guest is Indy Officinalis. Indy is a forager, educator, urban farmer, and steward of both her environment and her community. Her work is centered around the amplification of Black and Brown communities and food insecure regions. And she also happens to be the host of Nat Geo's Farm Dreams. Indy, I'm so excited to talk to you.
Hey, I'm so excited to talk to you too.
Here we are at the Heirloom Expo. This is going to be airing in November. So I don't know if this has any bearing on your answers to my questions, but it just lets you know what we're coming up on. So now, did you come from a farming family, or did you jump into this along the way?
Yeah, I did not come from a farming family at all. In some ways, I would say that everyone comes from a farming family. At some point in everyone's family tree, people grew food and ate the food that they grew. But my immediate family, the folks that I, lived in the home with, weren't food growers.
Okay. And I imagine that you have been traveling a lot for your show, but I understand that you bought your own farm last year. Is that true?
Yeah.
I want to know all about it. Tell me all about it.
Yeah.
Where is it? How big is it?
Yeah, buying my own farm has been a huge dream of mine. I've worked on other people's farms for over 10 years. And I say I bought my own farm in a very loose sense of the word because I bought a raw piece of land in Los Angeles in a very urban neighborhood, which is about 5 minutes away from where I live. It's a historically Black community. It's called Lamert Park.
Oh, exciting.
Yeah, amazing. And I've just been developing it as I've made money. I've put the money back into the land.
And what are your plans for it?
So I plan to start my own, pretty much a community educational micro farm. Yeah.
And so you're going to do classes? Are you planning on a CSA or anything like?
Yeah. So it will mostly be a means of hiring folks from the community to grow food for the community. So I'm really hoping that I can work with a model where I'm able to pay people to grow food and they're able to give away the food to people in need. I love CSAs. I've done them a lot before on other for-profit farms, but I don't see it as part of our immediate future.
Okay. I know there are some organizations out there, because you mentioned your work is in food insecurity, and so that's the first thing that popped up to me. But of course, and it takes time to get things started. So how much work have you done on it so far?
Yeah, it takes a lot, especially when you're filming a TV show.
Of course.
So I had a lot of weeds that I needed to clear. This land has been used just kind of as an empty lot, and in urban areas that means I've found a lot of trash and a lot of plastic bottles. So my plans so far have just been around healing the soil. So I rented a bunch of goats to clear the soil. I wish I could have purchased the goats because I love goats, but it was more practical to rent them. So I rented goats for about a month, and they cleared the land. They ate a lot of cactus. I went in and I just cleaned up as much like trash as I could.
Yeah.
And then I've put cardboard down to suppress any other weeds, and I just plan to build on top of that.
Okay. So you're doing a sheet mulching kind of thing.
Exactly. And I put a really cool greenhouse on the property.
Excellent. Yeah. So did you do the sheet mulching before all the rain that we
Yes,
got?
yeah. Yeah, thankfully.
Yeah, because usually sheet mulching is kind of challenging here in LA because it's so dry and you really have to wet that cardboard down a lot.
Totally.
So it's working for you.
It's working for me so far.
Okay.
Hopefully.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I want to touch on your passion for foraging, because you have the headshot of you that I see the most is with that you have a mushroom in front of your face.
Yeah.
So where did you learn to forage?
That's a great question. I went to herbalism school for 3 years on the East Coast, and a big part of herbalism is plant identification. And I just got sucked into the plant identification and the foraging and the plant walks aspect, and less into the tincture making, salve making people healing part.
Okay.
So I just kept foraging even after herbalism school, and then started focusing more on mushrooms.
And you said mushrooms, but is that your favorite thing to forage, or do you have other things that you like to forage?
Yeah, mushrooms are my favorite thing
Okay.
by far to forage. Yeah, they're beautiful. They're ephemeral. It takes a lot of, planning and licking your finger and sticking it up in the air and
I was gonna say, yeah, you have to time it out after a rain, which we don't usually get much of.
Right.
But there are places to forage in Los Angeles.
Yeah, and I teach foraging classes in Los Angeles, which aren't mushroom focused or based, but I do a lot of foraging in Northern California too.
Okay. Now I've had another person on the podcast who's a forager, but she is into even urban foraging, where picking weeds and or dumpster diving for food that's perfectly good that's been thrown away from grocery stores and stuff like that. So, do you do any like wild ramps or any other kinds of things that you like to forage?
Yeah, in Los Angeles, I do. I teach people how to forage for greens. So we do a lot of like stinging nettles and wild mustard and, I'm blanking, sorrel, just your everyday greens that you walk past, dandelions, things like that.
Yeah. And have you tried cultivating mushrooms at home?
Yeah. I used to help manage a 8-acre forest farm where we specialized in shiitake mushrooms.
Really?
On the East Coast. So yeah, shiitake mushrooms, oyster mushrooms. I still grow oyster mushrooms at home a lot, just for my own personal use.
This is a totally personal and selfish question that I'm asking you, because I did inoculate a log with oyster mushroom spawn, and it didn't work because it dried out.
Oh yeah.
And I don't have any single place in my yard that gets 100% full shade. Have you ever worked in that kind of a scenario?
Yeah.
What do you do? How do you deal with it?
Yeah, so what I would do is get just like a plastic trough. It could be like a feed bin for livestock, or just like one of those totes that you use to like move your kids to college or whatever. And use that to dunk your mushroom log consistently. Of course, you want to seal all of the holes with wax.
Right.
And set up a shade structure using a tarp.
Okay.
So
that makes sense.
Yeah, that's what
I'm gonna try again. I haven't given up, but I was disappointed that all that effort, drilling 70 dowel holes, it's
Yeah.
a pain in the butt. Anyway, all right. You have an eclectic set of interests that seems to have all come together in Farm Dreams, the Nat Geo show that came out in August of 2023.
Mhm.
For those who haven't seen it yet, what's it about?
It is about, okay, so it's really cute. I almost call it a farm makeover show, but I pretty much go to different farms around the United States, and we identify one of the major problems that the farm is having, and then we seek other farmers who have solutions to the initial farm's problem, and we all help the original farm solve their problem.
That sounds really helpful for a number of people. I mean, because community means everything in the farming world, right?
Right, exactly.
So, and people can watch this on
Disney Plus, Hulu, and Nat Geo.
Okay, and I have Hulu, so I'm gonna have to check it out.
Yeah.
I was very excited. I've been trying to come up with not come up with. I have a show I want to pitch to, like the PBS world, that has to do with community gardens.
Amazing.
And the community being that element there. So I was inspired by seeing your show. I was like, oh my God, she's out there doing this. This is great. And you also advocate and educate about food security or the lack thereof in certain communities. Does your show touch on that subject at all?
Yes, we do. We go to one of the farms that I first started working at in Los Angeles, which is a farm on Skid Row where everyone is unhoused, and it's a rooftop farm. So we definitely talk about how you can grow food for communities that don't otherwise have access to soil or water.
Good. Excellent. Now, 3 years ago, you created the Farm Fund, or a Farm Fund, for Black, Indigenous, and people of color.
Yeah.
What does that aim to accomplish?
Yeah, so the idea of that was to pretty much to help crowdsource funding to create farms in areas that are food insecure, where people are, Black and brown Indigenous farmers who are interested in growing their own food or starting their own farm. A lot of farms in the U.S. are passed down between white families, which is great. But especially as a Black American, a lot of the farms that my ancestors worked on, they didn't own.
They were driven off of.
Yeah, and or weren't there voluntarily, of
Yeah.
course. So, just restarting that ancestral well is really important to me.
I think so too. And I know that funding for farmers who are people of color is way under the amount of funding that goes, like mortgages or loans or farm loans. It's unequal.
Yeah,
It doesn't go to the people who need it the most, I think.
Yeah.
So you're working to change that. That's great. All right. So it is tip time, and I didn't warn you about this ahead of time. Do you have a favorite tip that you'd like to share with the Garden Nerd audience?
Oh man. I would encourage people to try growing mushrooms from home just because, it's at the top of my mind and we just talked about that. I think in the United States there is a huge issue with mycophobia and people are, so afraid of fungi and molds and slimes and lichens and they're missing out on a whole kingdom of exciting organisms. So try growing, even if it's just like one of those little at-home grow kits.
Yeah, the like cardboard box.
Yeah.
So have you, because I know a lot of times I end up coming across those kits in September when it's really too hot to be, they need to be a certain temperature. Do you have any?
Yeah, grow them inside. Like
indoors.
Keep them indoors in a shady kind of spot in your house. And keep them, just keep them moist.
Keep spraying them.
Yeah.
Douse them with water every day.
Yeah.
All right, that's a good tip.
Yeah.
And do you have a favorite type you like to grow indoors?
I love growing pink oyster mushrooms.
Pink oyster mushrooms.
They're beautiful. They're so vibrant. They make you feel really accomplished. They're cool to share and show to your friends. So
nice. All right. Well, thank you, Indy, for that fabulous tip and for being a guest on the Garden Nerd Tip of the Week podcast. This is probably the shortest podcast. We're tracking each other down, so this is where we are. Yes. Congratulations on the show again, and good luck with everything else. Where can people follow you online?
I mostly use Instagram. I probably should use TikTok, but my Instagram is Indy Officinalis.
Indy Officinalis. And I know that, they tell us to pick one and stick with it because it's just too many. There's too many out there. All right, Garden Nerds, you'll find a link to Indy's Instagram feed this week on Gardenerd.com. We'll also post a link to her Nat Geo show and her link tree for the other great avenues to explore, including the Farm Fund and a short film featuring Indy. That's it for this week. Subscribe to this podcast on Apple Podcast or wherever you listen. Visit us for tons of free gardening information at Gardenerd.com. Consider becoming a Patreon subscriber to support the free stuff we do here at Garden Nerd. You'll find us on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter under Garden Nerd 1, on Facebook as GardenNerd.com, and of course, our Garden Nerd YouTube channel. Happy gardening!